The next section of the syllabus gives you the weekly topical course outline. That is, these are the topics that we're going to be covering week by week. And I should mention right up front that this is a tentative schedule. Our schedule might differ somewhat significantly, but this is at least what I'm projecting now. And as the semester goes on, I might find out students are interested in different topics, or more time needs to be spent on certain topics, and I will adjust and I will reserve the right to adjust the schedule based on my best judgment. But let's go through what we're going to do. Week number one, which is the one we're in, we're getting introductions, trolley examples, and now we're on the course requirements, the syllabus. Okay. Week number two, we're going to be talking about something I call mindsets. And this gives you an idea of it's actually part of the introduction. And I want to give you a better idea of how you ought to be proceeding and what you can do to do better in the course. I'm going to have you watch the movie the 7-5, excuse me. It's a documentary about the 75th precinct in Brooklyn in East New York. And we're going to be talking about police corruption in a little bit. And in addition to which, we will start talking about an introduction to philosophy and ethics. This is an introductory course in philosophy, and ethics is a branch of philosophy, and it's worthwhile for you to understand exactly what philosophy is because it will help you get through the course. In the next week, we're going to be talking about ethics and the criminal justice system. We'll probably have a little bit of philosophy left over, what it is, talk about the various branches of ethics, and we'll talk about the problems in the criminal justice system. And in part, we will probably be reflecting on what we have learned in watching and taking notes on the movie The 7-5. Then the next topic in week four we're going to be moving to is the question of why should we be moral? Why should we care about ethics? Why should we care about morality? We will be reading a short piece from Plato's Republic, known as the Ring of Gyges example. And we will be discussing that in the context of whistleblowing and policing, what we've learned from the 7-5. And I will also be asking you to watch the documentary on Serpico, and we will be discussing how it relates to this very same question. Now, in week five, we will be moving on to moral arguments and how to understand moral arguments. And we'll be learning, this is a very practical skill. We'll be learning it's something we could use in every course. That is, how do we deal with arguments in general, and why is it important to deal with them, and how to understand them. And we will go back and look at some of the moral problems that we're talking about in light of these two things. In week six, we will be doing two things. We will be looking at evaluating arguments, how we go about evaluating arguments, and we will also be conducting a review, and we will be talking about the midterm assignment. We'll figure out when that'll be due sometime after the 6th week, maybe the 7th week, in the 7th week or after. Okay. Then moving on to the second half of the semester, we're going to go through some more argument exercises, and we're going to look at ethical arguments, moral arguments, and moral theories, how the two relate to each other, because it's going to help us, because we're going to apply what we're learning here when we're looking at the various moral problems related to the criminal justice system. Then we're going to spend a little time on, and I expect week 7 will bleed in a little bit into week 8. We're going to be talking about a theory, utilitarianism, which is also sometimes called consequentialism. And the idea is this theory claims that the ends justify the means, and we'll talk about exactly what that means. And we'll see how we apply that to the ethical questions that we've brought up with regard to policing so far. And we're going to see how we're going to apply them to other questions in criminal justice ethics. Next, we'll be moving on to deontology, or the rule-based ethics. That is, this is a kind of theory that says, certain things are just wrong no matter what the consequences. And at the same time, I'm going to ask you to watch Just Mercy. So it's going to provide us with another series of ethical problems related to the criminal justice system, and ones that are might be very important right now. From there, we're going to move to week 10, talking about the courts, that is, the ethics in the administration of capital punishment, which is an issue that's brought up in the movie Just Mercy. And we're going to talk about questions about corrections and juvenile justice, which is something else that's talked about in the book Just Mercy, but not so much in the movie itself. So I might give you something out of that book to read or a different reading. And then in week 11, we're going to hit the final issue that I want to talk about, the moral issue of the criminal justice system and racism. There have been especially now when I'm recording this, there have been some serious claims about um, the nature of the U.S. criminal justice system and racism being part of it. And we're not going to solve that problem, but what I want to do is conceptually look at racism and conceptually look at the criminal justice system and say, how would we evaluate the claims that some people are making that the criminal justice system is inherently racist and others claiming it's not? I don't intend to answer that question, but I intend giving you enough information and let you figure out how you're going to answer that question. And finally, week 10, we're going to come up with the conclusions and the review for the final, and we'll summarize what's gone on, and we will bring the course to a close that way.